Alright, so we are up down to the head. Now for the head, I'm first going to delete the texture map that I have here. And what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to, or not delete, but I'm going to want to cut these eyes out, first of all. Reason being, of course, is that I want to UV this object. Just, I want to UV this surface separately. Now, what you're going to want to do is, first of all, you're going to want to use the unwrap tool. Now, generally what people do is they try to cut all this out in one piece. So I could, for example, just select right across the middle. Very simply deselect the middle, like that. The actual face. Now, the reason why I did that is because what I'm actually going to, I want to make sure that the middle of the face, right across the middle here, is kept intact, and I'm going to be cutting the back, and I'm going to be unwrapping this way right out. Or at least that's the plan. Of course, I might want to select a little bit more of this. Select right along here. Now, I will show you all these results, why I'm making the decisions that I'm making, and again, UVing is all about decisions. And that right now, I'm going to just try, at the very least, to unwrap the model as it is. So I'm just going to hit unwrap. I'm going to hit that right there. And of course, the result I get is like that. Not nice, not pretty, not yet anyways. Sometimes you might need to change the cylindrical, change the modes, or change the axes that you're working from. And sometimes the result that you're going to get is never really going to be pretty. Now, sometimes I wonder if I'm getting, a perfectly symmetrical result. In this case, not really. Current normal. Nope, and yes, finally. So we have this result here, and that's not too bad. I'm going to try to see what I got from that. And of course, it's the wrong texture map because I didn't delete the last one. So now this time, what I want to do is I just really want to just rename this to texture, or even map 1. And of course, we get something like this. Now, looking at this application of this texture map, I really don't like the fact that I have more density. I see more of the grid along the neck and less along the face. The reason why I don't like that is because when you choose to look at, or when you look at the face, you really, or the head, when you look at a character, you will look at you'll put a lot of your attention towards their face, not necessarily the neck as much. Unless, of course, there's something going on there. Maybe you might want to paint a hickey or something, I don't know. But for the most part, you will be focusing a lot of your attention on the eyes, the mouth, and, this general area of the face right here. So you might want to dedicate a little bit more texture room to that. Often what I'll do is I'll literally just chop off the face altogether. Some people like to keep the whole thing all in one piece, and that's fine, and that's good too. I guess, it works for them. But for the most part, what I'm doing is I'm usually using a 3D painting application anyways, so for me it doesn't really matter as much. Now, as far as the ears go, they did unwrap kind of okay. And if you're not going to be if you're not going to be painting any specific texture maps on the ear itself, then this result is okay. Of course, you start noticing that there's a lot of stretching along here, and you might not want, a result like that. So of course, what I could have done is I could have, when I initially, chosen my edges, I might want to revisit them slightly. What I might want to do is to reselect my edges very quickly. You just have to go to select UV border, and you'll automatically get the same edges that I had previously. And I might want to change the configuration of my lines. So I'm just going to subtract some of this. Maybe go down a little bit lower here. Like that. And let's see what we get when I hit unwrap again. Well, it's a little bit better. You know, there's a little bit more room here now. I might want to even separate this. Again, see what I get. Not perfect. It is what it is, I guess. So what I would really highly recommend is to do a few things. One of which is add more room to for the ear. So what I would actually do is I would altogether cut the ear out. So I'm just going to select both ears. I'm going to try to find a nice clean line outside of the ear to cut it out. Whatever. Anyways, I'm just going to try to select something. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. This is fine. And of course, I don't really have to do that the same thing to the other side of the ear at all. Because what I could do is after I make my selection, is, well, first of all, I could evaluate what I got on one side and the other. Do I have the same kind of selection on both sides? Not yet, but I'm getting closer. And this, I think, looks okay-ish. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this out, paste it into a different part of the object. So now the ears are all separate. And what I can do now is I can just UV map only one piece. I'm actually going to delete that altogether, the UVs for that. I'm going to unwrap the ears, or I'm going to unwrap that ear. The second ear really doesn't matter just yet. Because what I could do is once I get one ear finished, I could easily mirror it over and you know, just get my results that way. And of course, if I just want to go inside here, cut that piece out so I get less stuff to do in here. So once again, I'm just going to select that, hit that, and then of course I'm going to seal holes to try to see what I'm going to get in terms of my result. And of course the hole was so big that I didn't know what to do. So I'm just going to leave that as is. And instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manually adjust these points. So of course when I apply my map, again I have to do that. So not the perfect result. It's okay-ish. What I really should do is, again, I should make maybe a few more cuts along here. Try to give more texture space to this thing here. I don't know. What I could technically do is, and this is, I actually saw Brad Peebler do this, is choose a fall off and grow this section, or I could even, you know, just do something like this where I'm literally just moving and stretching some of these polygons out just so there's more data in there. Obviously, I'm stretching some of these parts out. So now I, again, just pick relax and try to get a better result. Now you'll notice that I just selected a part of the model here. What this is I'm just adding pins where I'm going to be selecting and, you know, dragging and distorting the model by this way. So now I have points in which I could just use to manipulate the relax with. And this is not too bad. Once again, might have to go in there and manually tweak a few points. Anyways, I have a few more polygons here now, but I don't know. I mean, it is the ear. I'm not going to bother too much, and of course, considering my other ear is kind of, you know, not looking very attractive right now, I might want to delete that, mirror it over, and of course, considering my object is actually off, as you can see here, off the x-axis, what I am going to have to do is approximate as much as possible. Just zoom in there, do that, and of course flip it around. So now back to the head. What I might want to do is, you know, you really have to just make a decision and go with it. In my case, I'm actually going to cut the face off all the way around. It really makes no sense for me to keep it as one piece. I think it's going to be, you know, quite a waste for me to do that. And I have to find some clean lines here. Like that. So I really want to select this right there. Like that. I'm going to hit unwrap, and the reason why I hit unwrap just there is because what I really wanted to do is I just wanted to separate the face altogether. I wanted to cut it out, paste it in a different model or, you know, layer, and I am now going to worry about this part of the model. So I'm just going to hit unwrap. I got the overall neck structure now unwrapped, and whoops. Again, hit unwrap. Choose whichever method you like. Unwrap it like that. So at least you have a nice sense of readability from the front. Towards the back, not so much, but that's where usually the hair is on any given model, so that's okay. And, you know, we're back to the face, and the face is more or less okay. I don't mind this result. You know, the model has enough texture data everywhere. The only problems that we have is, of course, with the eyes. And, you know, all things considering, what I could do is I could just do this, detach that part altogether, should I choose to. There's really many ways to go about this. And of course, just unwrap, see what you get. Unwrap, see what you get. Choose the face, unwrap again. And of course, now the eyes don't have the same kind of problems that they did. They have a little bit here, but that's okay. That's perfectly acceptable. And of course, I like this map, even though it's on the side, I can easily tell it to rotate negative 90 degrees along the, well, just rotate negative 90. Of course, here I have a little bit too much lip, so I'm going to subtract that from the lips, and that might be a little bit too much, so I'm just going to subtract that only. Of course, normally I would have an inside of the mouth, and this part would be a part of that. So I subtracted that from it. So the head is more or less okay. I have a few parts to the head, like that I'm actually just going to cut and paste. And now I'm going to go and pack these UVs like that, and I have my face unwrapped. Again, it's not perfect. A lot of people would not necessarily go this way because they would like to have this entire face mapped to the rest, and you know what? At this point I can do just that. That's not a problem. What I could do is I can align this as much as possible with this. I can then scale the head from this point. I can try to align some of these edges along. And of course, considering this part is actually separate from that, I'm going to have to make sure I merge the vertices first so that this model is physically connected along here. And of course, if I click on any of these edges, you notice the blue lines. That means that those are seam lines. I'm just going to select some of these lines here, some of these bordering edges. Like that. And of course, what I'm going to do in the end is I'm just going to sew average. And of course, once that is done, I just go back to relax. I make sure that my lock boundary is on. I relax that model. And now I have at least a bigger portion of the model that's seamless. Of course, I'm not sure I like that, so I'm just going to go back to pack UVs. Of course, I have to make sure that nothing's selected before I do that, or everything is selected. And of course, the head is using a large portion of the texture map. That's pretty okay. The back of the head, not so much, which again, that's okay. And the only thing I really have to do is I just have to go back in here and edit some of these UVs manually, because this is not going to work. The last thing you want is to have any overlapping UVs. If you're going to be doing any kind of ZBrush work, the last thing you want is to have overlapping UVs, because what you're going to get is you're going to get multiple parts overriding each other, and the result that you're going to get is not very pleasant. So I would definitely recommend, just making sure you go over your entire model, especially around the corners like this, corners of the mouth, corners of the eyes, any of those kind of areas you really, really want to fix up. Like that. Sometimes you might get, the inside of the nose breaking up. Again, corners of the eyes. It's always very important to make sure you check every single time, even though it might appear from far away that it's fine. I would have never guessed otherwise, that there's problem areas around there. But once you zoom in, you see a much clearer picture. Of course, that's fine. Both ears are fine because I, copied them over. And I don't know. I mean, like, you know, there's definitely more that you could do. I'm guessing that you might be able to put the ears back in here. You know, try to find. Actually, I guess I should select the whole model first. Merge the vertices. And try to find the seam lines here somewhere. And maybe what I could do is I could try to merge some of this back together. I could definitely do this actually with this part of the model. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this part of the model could probably use that. And of course, you know, I could continue working my way around the model. And maybe even before I did that, what I could have done is I could have just selected a portion of this model like that, grown the selection overall. And then what I could have done is I could have went back into my element move tool, move some of this around. I know that I'm distorting the UV map, but that's kind of okay because in the end what I do is once I get into a situation like that where, you know, I'm able to once again sue, I can then go and just relax that portion. Of course, you really should go and, you know, just sew like the rest of it out, work on the second ear, do the same thing. But anyways, this is kind of how, you know, you go through the process of UVing a head. It really is just that easy. Again, if you need to clean some of this up, that's fine. Just, you know, select some of these edges here, you know, flatten it out, whatever. You could always, again, just use the relax tool to relax some of that. Not a perfect solution because now all of a sudden you get, you know, this edge here. So previously it was a little bit better where, anyways, yeah, so that's pretty much how you do the head. The eyes, obviously, you know, just use spherical. Sometimes you might want to delete the back portion of the eye, not really important. In this case, it's just like literally two eyeballs. If I was going to create a more realistic kind of eye, I would definitely, you know, have two spheres, one within another. You know, I'd have the whole iris there and everything else kind of mapped out and, you know, in location. And I would definitely have a more complex eye altogether, but this is just an example. So you guys should definitely know how to do an eye by now. So yeah, next part, I'm just going to go ahead and work on the turtle, which really is not that difficult.